Welcome back to the Domino Effect. I'm your host, Nicolette Sewell. Our low-income residents and senior citizens are some of Orange County's most vulnerable populations. It's our social responsibility as a community to advocate for those in need. How do we ensure residents have adequate access to medical care? How do we guarantee the appropriate maintenance of handling assets such as properties and bank accounts? What about access to mental health services? In this episode, local nonprofit organization, the Legal Aid Society of the Orange County Bar Association, will sit with Orange County District 2 Commissioner Christine Moore to discuss these issues and various resources available within Central Florida. This is the Domino Effect.
Hello, I'm Bethany Barber, Executive Director at the Legal Aid Society of the Orange County Bar Association. I'm joined today by Commissioner Christine Moore of Orange County District 2 to discuss issues facing our community. Commissioner, we are so happy that you're here with us today. Thank you for your time. We're really interested in what's going on with your constituents and what's happening in your community. So what are you seeing?
Thank you, Bethany, for having me today. Really, when folks call our office, they're looking for help and they're looking for solutions. And we were really seeing, particularly in the South Apopka area, a problem with their wills. And it was concerning because I saw it across the board that families were losing their generational wealth because they didn't understand how or where the importance of a will. And it got worse from there in that the home, it was this cycle, this downward cycle that the home would then be vacant once grandma had gone to a home or passed on. And then the home had maybe the copper removed, the windows broken, and it would have to sit there for a long time to get through the code enforcement process. And ultimately down the road, it wasn't worth anything, and it was bundled up in a package for great nonprofits. But that family lost all that generational wealth from grandma's house. And I think that's what started us talking to you at Legal Aid, how we could help these families to preserve that wealth.
Great question. And the good thing is there are so many accessible answers for people to take advantage of. And you said the code word, the operative word, which is wills. Wills, wills, wills. Wills is they're a really great way to make sure that property is disposed of in the manner in which people want to dispose of it. So when you think of a will, lots of times people think of this very formal document. People think that you need to have it notarized. People think that it needs to be filed and some grandiose thing needs to happen to it. That's not the case. A will is a document that needs to be created by a person who wants to basically dispose of or handle property and have it be disposed of in a certain way. So with that will, you need a person to write out what they want to happen to their property. They need to sign it, and they need two people to basically witness the signage of it. It doesn't need to be done by an attorney, but attorneys can handle wills. Certainly at the Legal Aid Society, we handle wills every day, and we're so excited to do them for the community, especially people who are seniors, veterans, anyone who really needs a will. But this will is this great document that you can make a determination about what happens to your property, to whom your property is going to go. You sign it, you have those two witnesses that we talk about, and then you file it away. Ultimately, when the property vests or when an individual passes on, this will is going to be filed with the court. So many people think that with a will, you avoid court, you avoid probate court altogether. That's not the case. But a will does make it much easier for the wishes of the person who passes on to be followed. And that's the great thing about a will. When it comes to wills at our office, we will step people through all of the processes in all of the parts of a will to make sure that it's nice and airtight, that it's legitimate, and that when your loved ones are left in a position to make sure that property is well preserved and taken care of, it's easy to walk to the courthouse, file this will, and have the court make a quick determination about how this property is to be disposed of.
So let's go back then to that family, and the mother or the father is maybe, in their golden years. How do you recommend maybe the children broach that subject and get the process started?
It's a tough process, but it's one that generally starts and ends with love, right? Parents love their children, children love their parents, and beginning the conversation about we want to make sure that your wishes are followed beyond your passing is a really good way to begin the conversation. Our phone number at the Legal Aid Society is one we freely give out. I recommend that people call the Legal Aid Society. The Legal Aid Society is a place where you can get education on legal issues as well as actually have your legal issues addressed. I recommend people call the Legal Aid Society and begin a conversation about wills. I'm interested in having a will for my parents. I'm interested in having a will for my loved one. Ultimately, that person who is going to sign the will, who is disposing of their property, is going to be the client, but call. We would love for people to call and walk them through the process of doing a will.
And I do usually see it comes from the elderly resident, the parent, or do you see it initiated more often from a child or a grandchild?
Definitely the parents, because we certainly need the person who is signing the will, the person who is making a determination about what's happening with their property, to be the person who's the client. So the majority of the time it's certainly the parents, but it's okay for a child to say, I'm interested in having a will done for my mother or my father, and then we begin a conversation with how to bring that person into the equation. But we certainly would never want to do anything against someone's wishes. So we will have the client be the person who's disposing of their property.
Absolutely. They'd have to be in the room.
Yep.
So how would you recommend getting the word out about these services, particularly in my South Apopka community? I have just seen this repeatedly, and it breaks my heart to see these properties, be vandalized because they sat there vacant too long.
Mm-hmm. So first and foremost, have the conversation as soon as possible, sooner rather than later. There's no magic age for a will. Some people think, oh, I can only do a will when I'm 50. I can do a will when I'm, a senior citizen. That's not the case. Do a will whenever you choose to do a will. Wills are what's called revocable. You can get rid of them at any time. You can amend them. You can rip them up. You can get rid of a will. You can do another will. So it is important anytime that you have property like this home that you talk about, these beautiful homes in your district, or these homes that have emotional attachments and meanings. You have property and it is worth preserving that property because you want to pass this on to your loved ones and you want to have a hand in what happens. That's the time to do a will. You can have a 20-year-old do a will. So begin with a call to the Legal Aid Society, the person who has ownership of that property, and even if it's not a home, if it's a vehicle, if it's a piece of land, definitely contact the Legal Aid Society so we can begin that process. It's a very simple process, and from start to finish, when it comes to a will, wills can be turned around in as quickly as a week. So someone can go from having no security in knowledge about what's going to happen with their property to a week later knowing exactly how that property is going to be distributed upon their passing. And you were so right that it makes such a difference generationally. People don't necessarily think about the impacts of that, but you have a will. This will takes your property and passes it on to your children, to your children's children, or whatever manner you see fit, because individuals have the ability to make those determinations. And that does solidify a family's standing and a family's footing. It helps with history, it helps with economics, it helps with knowledge, and it certainly helps with preserving those homes that otherwise could be passed on to governments or other not-for-profits.
Yeah, my father just passed away, and I inherited his flute, and that was in the will because I play, and he knew that I would cherish it, and I've been playing it. And so I think it's important that some of our life's positions, things we've worked our entire careers for, that we think through where they should best go, because he knew I would play it, right? It didn't get melted down. It didn't end up at a pawn shop. It didn't end up in another family. It ended up with his daughter who will play it and think of him.
That's so meaningful. And there are a couple of other pieces of documentation that are important. While people can have wills, and we certainly recommend wills for anyone who wants one, who wants to dispose of property, there are some other things like powers of attorney or advanced medical directives, because it's important for people's wishes to be followed, even if they're in a situation of incapacity or they're mentally disabled and they're not able to make a decision, or mentally incapacitated, I should say. So things like powers of attorney are documents that enable certain people to make decisions
Right.
for other people, right? You can have powers of attorney in a number of areas, or it can be very limited. You can give someone power of attorney to sign documentations for you, to make medical
Right.
decisions, to make economic decisions, and that's something we do at the Legal Aid Society too. We especially like doing this for vulnerable groups because we think it's very important that everyone have a say-so in their life.
Absolutely. And so last question on this topic would be, do you have any experience with how to capture, to get folks to think about it, advertise your services, how to get more people to take advantage of what you offer?
We are out and about. We try to go to every single zip code in Orange County. We're certainly in District 2. District 2 has so many amazing community groups that should feel free to contact us. Our phone number, 407-841-8310. Our information will be provided later, as well as our website, legalaidocba.org. People can contact us. We're so happy to go out and do educational meetings. We do what are called clinics, where people can actually come in and do events, but it's our mission to connect to entities that want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of their community. So we encourage people to contact the Legal Aid Society, and we'll also contact members of the community, and we'll do those large group events or do one will or one power of attorney.
Well, that's wonderful. I look forward to a successful partnership with you. And we'll probably ask you for a little link for our newsletter list so that people are aware of it on an ongoing basis. But thank you so much, Bethany, for your work on looking out for our families at that time of transition and their generational welfare, all the things that they need at the time of passing of a loved one.
We appreciate it. We appreciate you. And we are going to take a short break to hear from our generous sponsors. And when we come back, we'll talk about more issues impacting the community on the Domino Effect.
Until all our daughters are safe. Until all our children have families. Until all our families have homes. Until all our parents are cared for. We'll be here.
Can health insurance help cure loneliness? Can it take care of your best friend too? Or hold your hand for 9 months? Can it be there for you at 3 a.m.? Or inspire you to go the extra mile? We think so, which is why every day we ask ourselves, what else can health insurance do? Come find out.
Welcome back to the Domino Effect. I have Commissioner Moore with me, and we're going to jump into our next topic, a very serious topic, evictions. Commissioner, we live in Florida. We know that evictions are real, that evictions are happening. Have you experienced this or heard anything in your district?
Well, certainly during the pandemic, the county was, instrumental in distributing federal dollars to families who've gotten months behind. And Diane Arnold would regularly give us updates, and the number of folks calling my office or calling the county was astronomical. But a lot of those funds are, drying up now. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of getting back to where it was before. There's potential for some more funding to help in these situations, but certainly it's always worth a call to your commissioner's office to see if there is this funding mechanism through our housing department, or because most of the pass-throughs from federal government dollars with all these grants and special appropriations, will certainly come through us, and we can get them to the right person. And that's why I've appreciated talking to you at Legal Aid Society to do that. So certainly we've seen a lot of evictions, foreclosures. Our money wasn't really quite there as much to help people, which was unfortunate. The funding was mainly on the rental side.
Mm-hmm. There were certainly some lows always lows when it comes to evictions and foreclosures, but there were some really large highs. You mentioned the eviction diversion program, and I think it's worth mentioning just how much Orange County government and its partners did to make sure that those funds got into the hands of people. I love sharing with people that Orange County gave out more dollars in eviction diversion funds than any other county in the state of Florida. More than Hillsborough, more than Duval, more than Miami-Dade.
Now I'm glad you knew that. I did not know that. And I have a friend, she always say it's a poor frog that, fails to praise his own. So thank you for praising Orange County government.
Orange County government, right off the bat, I think it's incredibly impressive that Orange County actually had the first program, the first organized program. There was an electronic mechanism, people could make phone calls. That was certainly part of the success, but accessibility was another one. So Orange County government was certainly very aware that the issue was coming. We were happy to play a part in that and help with the process, but we know that evictions are still occurring at this day and age. We see it at our organization. We see it at our office. And you were right. The funds are somewhat more available for evictions than they are for foreclosures. Nonetheless, they're both happening. And what I tell people from our perspective is we are trying to mitigate loss when it comes to evictions at our office. Sometimes we're able to prevent evictions. Many times we are. Many times we're working on an appropriate exit strategy for people so that their finances are preserved.
Have you found any success in dealing with mortgage companies when you get a couple months behind and then they call the whole mortgage in? And of course, no one's going to be able to do that. They just want to get caught up.
Mm-hmm. They want to get caught up. And your statement, your sentiment about what mortgage companies want is very true and very real. I am so happy that we get to employ an arsenal of tactics at our office. So we do engage in direct communication with mortgage companies. We mediate, we arbitrate, we engage in negotiations, and many times we are able to make a difference when it comes to those things. We also have a program that is called a foreclosure mediation program, and that's done in conjunction with the Ninth Judicial Circuit and with the Orange County Bar Association. So people come to the table. You'll have the individuals who own a home, you'll have those mortgage companies, and we will mediate that issue. And we are so happy that we're able to derive good results from that process.
Have you seen the mortgage companies more willing during the pandemic to allow the homeowner to catch up payments?
Sometimes, but it was mandated a little bit earlier in the year. So there was this mandatory 90-day process where federally backed mortgages had to evaluate the feasibility of coming to some sort of agreement with the homeowner or the person who was behind in that mortgage. After that 90-day period, they could go forward with a foreclosure if that was appropriate, but they had to essentially take these mitigation steps within that 90-day period. We did see some successes just because exactly in the scenarios that you talked about, where you have people who were a couple of months behind and it was possible to catch up with some reorganization or some additional economic supports. And people would come to our office and we were able to push people in the appropriate direction and did save some homes in that area. Still, we're seeing foreclosures, and we recommend that people contact our office to see what we can do when it comes to communicating with those companies to try to mitigate damages or prevent long-term negative impacts.
And do you have a partnership with anyone on credit recovery? Because once a family is foreclosed, now they're going to be into the rental market, which we all know is incredibly tight right now and that we don't have enough supply out there. Mm-hmm. Do you have any recommendations if someone calls my office and now doesn't have the credit score, they have a foreclosure on their record, what can they do to now be able to rent a home?
This is a conversation for the next 12, 15 days. We have a pretty robust consumer practice at our office too, and we love to bundle services. So something that we see pretty frequently, people will call for one issue. For instance, they'll call for foreclosure, or they'll call for an eviction. Unfortunately, life deals many cards to people. And so you could have someone who calls in for an issue with foreclosure, but there's also an issue with bankruptcy. There could be an issue with correcting one's credit. And we love to do that because the entire purpose of the Legal Aid Society is to take these social problems and apply solid legal answers to them. We want to create economic sustainability and security when it comes to families. So we'll take the time to go through the issues and determine if there's something else that we can do to assist a person. You were so right. When it comes to consumer issues, you can take debt, we can discharge it, we can make sure we are whittling down debt, that we are reducing it, that if a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13, which is certainly more rare in the bankruptcy world, is something that we should pursue, we'll pursue it by talking with a person. So making sure that one calls in and explains the full breadth and depth of their issue is what's really important.
And what about being preemptive and ahead of the game here and just education? It seems like when I'm out in the community and the calls that I get, some of these things seem normal to me. I would have, handled that myself, but they don't know. And they get in these pickles and these difficult situations and they just lack direction and education. Is there any helps of little vignettes and stories and any kind of printed materials to help educate our folks? Because I think most of these problems start with they didn't know how to keep themselves out of the trouble or even get out of it. They lack knowledge.
There are some incredible resources. Again, our website, legalaid.org, lists a number of the resources for individuals when it comes to all of these issues we're discussing. But particularly when it comes to consumer things, there's the Federal Trade Commission, there's the Attorney General's office. The State Attorney General's office actually does have some really good forms to step people through processes as it relates to identity theft and some other awful things that could potentially happen. There are actually packets that people can fill out to step them through who to contact, when to contact, who to report to. In addition to us helping individuals do that at our organization, it is a really great place to start when it comes to education. In addition to doing legal work at our organization, we're always engaged in making sure that constituents know their rights. Know your rights. Know what is available to you. Know where to turn when it comes to needing assistance. You can always begin by calling our office. We welcome phone calls. We have no issue with the community calling and asking if they're headed in the right direction or if this is something that we handle. We work with a network of other not-for-profit organizations that are sometimes able to assist in areas that we're not. But specifically, I would definitely recommend people go to the FTC as well as the Attorney General's office to get additional information.
Well, that's good to know, Bethany, because we have people call our office every day and a myriad of subjects just looking for help, and we really appreciate what you do at the Legal Aid Society to help my residents.
It's always our pleasure. Thank you for being with us. We're going to take a short break and we're going to hear from our sponsors, but when we come back, we are going to talk about something that we're quite excited to talk about. It's senior issues. We'll be right back with more of the Domino Effect.
Can health insurance help cure loneliness? Can it take care of your best friend too? Or hold your hand for 9 months? Can it be there for you at 3 a.m.? Or inspire you to go the extra mile? We think so, which is why every day we ask ourselves, what else can health insurance do? Come find out.
When something happens to residents of our community and they come to our doors, we know it is because the very worst has happened and they are trying to prevent certain disaster, or certain disaster has already happened and there is no one else around in their support system, in their professional system, if there is one, who's able to help. No one goes to sleep and dreams about being poor. No one wakes up and says, I want to be poor today. I want to have no resources. I want to be impoverished. I don't want to have a network. I don't want to have a community. But every single person who comes through the doors of the Legal Aid Society finds themselves in that situation, not because that's where they choose to be, but that's because it's where they are. And we're the organization that says, it doesn't matter what your income is. You deserve to be able to protect yourself, to protect your family, to be a contributing member of this community. Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Domino Effect. I have Commissioner Moore with me, and the topic we're going to dive into now is that of elder issues and other issues impacting the elder community. So, Commissioner, you have a very diverse and eclectic group of individuals who live in District 2. Particularly as it relates to seniors, what are some of the things you're seeing?
I see seniors with a whole host of problems that they need help, and they call us regularly. And she told me at the beginning, you told me not to talk about trees, but that's the one that's been so challenging, that they have, their neighbor might have a 100-year-old oak that is headed their way, and they don't understand the law, they don't understand insurance. Maybe the tree falls. I've had them fall, and all I've had available to me was calling a friend who is a tree service, calling the firefighters to get the tree off their house. But it opened up really conversations about much more than just trees, realizing that they just needed assistance with all kinds of life decisions because they lacked maybe the education or the connections or the knowledge to manage those types of decisions for themselves. And a lot of it really is surrounding home ownership. You know, having a house, making the mortgage payment, understanding how to keep insurance, your tax bills, save our homes, all those kinds of issues. Finding funding for repiping the house. I've been very involved with the septic to sewer issue because the state, because we're in the Wekiva Springs watershed.
That's right, converting.
How do we do that? And a lot of the state laws were really putting the burden on the property owner, and I'm well aware that that was just going to be way too difficult for most of them. So we've been developing solutions where we can kind of go it together, you know, neighborhood by neighborhood. And I've loved talking to all these folks and bringing them together. But it's just, I think sometimes, particularly the women, the elderly women, they feel kind of alone and they're just not sure how to navigate life's challenges.
Life can be overwhelming and it can be fast paced. It can change all the time. And what we've come to rely upon isn't necessarily always there. So a great place to start when we talk about senior issues, resources, right?
Right.
Who do you call? Where do you call? In addition to the Legal Aid Society, there's some incredible partnerships that we recommend. The Florida Department of Elder Affairs is a phenomenal partnership. They have information about what is elder abuse, what isn't elder abuse, what are your rights as a senior citizen, what are you entitled to receive, and they have some really good information as far as accessible resources. I also strongly recommend this organization called Senior Resource Alliance when it comes to Orange County. It's a group that connects seniors with all types of services. Every service under the sun that you could think that a senior could potentially need, in addition to legal services, food stability, heating and cooling resources. If you're having issues with an eviction, if you think you're a victim of identity theft, they really bring everything together and package everything for people. So the Department of Elder Affairs and Senior Resource Alliance are two incredible partners that we depend on. But when it comes,
tell me a little bit more about the Senior Resource Center. Are they here located in Orange County?
They're in Orange County. They're off of a street, I believe, called McGuire, but they're easily accessible. They have wonderful leadership. They have a call center you can call during the weekday. You can speak with a live person. I believe they also have a call center that operates on Saturdays as well, so you can get connected to someone who's going to be able to assist you with those issues that you need as a senior citizen. We strongly recommend SRA. We also recommend that when it comes to seniors that they call our office, because essentially we'll do something called a check. We'll do a legal health check. Because as we talked about a little bit earlier, there are just so many issues, a litany of issues that impact people, and seniors face them all. Seniors face housing instability, they face consumer issues, they may be faced with raising children of their children, they could face a number of things. They may need help with their taxes. You get information that comes in the mail, you don't know if it's truthful or if it's fraudulent. So being able to suss out those issues and determine what your responsibilities are as an Orange County citizen and what you can ignore is a really helpful piece of information to be able to go to someone and get connected. At the Legal Aid Society, we always try to go out to communities and connect with groups so that we are present when it comes to the communities. We love going to senior centers to make sure that seniors, citizens, or members of the senior center are connected to us. So if you're a senior center, if you are a part of a group and you would like the Legal Aid Society to come out and speak with your constituents or your members, have them call us. It would be our pleasure to speak with members of the senior community.
A lot of our senior groups have sort of been hiatus with the pandemic, but I think they're beginning to to recongregate and get together, and I love them. I have two. The Pine Hills Senior Group is very active, and then there's the Progressive Seniors in South Apopka District 2, and you would be a wonderful guest to talk about some of these services. Do you end up handing them any kind of collaterals, any printed materials that list all these different types of services?
All of it, all of the services. We are chock full of printed materials as well as tchotchkes. We're never going to show up empty-handed. So when we communicate with people, when we do outreach, as we call it, we want to make sure that people know the specific legal services we provide, and we also want to make sure that people know what their legal rights are when it comes to a number of issues. So anyone
That's so important, because seniors sometimes can get taken advantage of. You know, people will prey on them with fraud, so that's important that they know their rights.
We pride ourselves on protecting members of the vulnerable community, and we certainly are not of the camp that all seniors are vulnerable, but all seniors are worth advocating for. They're a treasure in our community. They do so much to contribute to our community.
They really do. You know, I do a lot of cleanups and work to improve my district, and I would tell you it's folks from about 55 to 75 who are the ones who come out to do everything. I mean, maybe because they're not taking care of children anymore, and maybe they're not working as much, but I cannot imagine where this community would be without our seniors.
Me neither, and they hold things together. They're the roots. So we really enjoy making sure that all of the legal issues that they could face are taken care of. We love at our office that in addition to tax season, which basically in our office spans February to April, right after that, we take 30 days to make sure that we're getting our house in order, and then for the rest of the year, we'll do taxes for 3 years in the past. So contact the Legal Aid Society. We'll do your taxes from the previous tax season during February to April, and then June through the rest of the year, we'll do your taxes from 3 years in the past. We'll make sure that everything is in order. The same thing when it comes to consumer issues, the same thing when it comes to bankruptcies, issues associated with family law matters. There are several seniors who are fortunately and unfortunately stepping up to care for younger children, minor children. So we do a healthy amount of what's called guardianships at our office. We call them 751 guardianships.
I saw that when I was on the school board. There were more and more grandparents raising grandchildren.
More and more grandparents raising grandchildren. And it's an incredible thing that individuals who are family members are stepping up, and guardianships are a wonderful way to make sure that family members who are minors are looked out for and have stable legal custody. So when it comes to guardianships, if you are a relative of a child, call our office if you're interested in, if you believe it is necessary essentially to be their guardians because their mother or father, their other legal guardian is not present, if there's an issue of abandonment, if there's an issue with that mother or father consenting for the child to remain in your custody, call our office, because that can be a very overwhelming process and people don't know where to start. It's a really scary thing, and I know you saw this in your time at the school board.
I did.
When you have children who so desperately need these pieces of information and these resources, and it takes a legal guardian to sign certain documents, to enable tests to occur, to make sure that funding is available, and a guardianship can help you do that.
Absolutely. Educational guardians, yeah, we were familiar with that because there's so many pieces to getting a child successfully over the finish line at graduation onto a good life. So I appreciate all the work you do at Legal Aid. It sounds like you could help just about everyone, so I look forward to a positive partnership with your office.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your accessibility. Thank you for representing the constituents of District 2 and for being a strong voice for Orange County residents everywhere. We are so thankful for your time today, and we look forward to seeing you at a commission meeting soon.
My pleasure. You know, anything I can ever do to help my citizens, I will do it. So thank you for being with me today.
Our pleasure. Thank you all for tuning into this episode of the Domino Effect. We truly appreciate your support. Until next time, Orange County.
The Legal Aid Society has existed for over 60 years, providing legal representation to clients on issues similar to those discussed in this episode. The Legal Aid Society wants residents to know that when faced with legal troubles, you are and should still be able to receive high-quality legal representation and access to justice regardless of your income. If you reside in Orange County District 2 and have questions about your local laws and regulations, you may contact Commissioner Christine Moore's office by calling 407-836-7350. If you're seeking assistance on a legal matter, such as consumer debt, family law, housing, even immigration, contact the Legal Aid Society law firm by calling 407-841-8310. The Legal Aid Society is a nonprofit law firm that relies greatly on volunteerism and donations. For more information on how you can help the organization keep its doors open, visit legalaidocba.org today. Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Domino Effect, and remember, perpetual goodness goes a long way.